Hello, my name is Tilden Badich. Welcome to the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. Joining us today is Mr. Hunt Riegel, the Chairman of the Rockbridge Area Network Authority. Hello, Mr. Riegel.
Hello.
Okay, so the Rockbridge Area Network Authority, or RANA, is a new initiative bringing broadband access to the Rockbridge County.
Yes. Yes, RANA is a consortium, really, it's an authority recognized under the state code, and it represents a consortium of the cities of Lexington, Buena Vista, and Rockbridge County, as well as Washington and Lee University, and we have a general representative representing the business community at large.
So what is the current status of the project's progress?
Well, we received a $7 million grant, which we matched with about $3 million from the federal government, and have spent the last year completing an environmental assessment, determining which routes would be the best for us to put the fiber optic cable on, and basically getting everything ready for construction. We've recently been going through a series of bidding processes and have just this past week identified a constructor for putting in the DSL cabinets, which I'm sure we'll be talking about a little later. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be selecting a contractor to put in the fiber cable.
So where has construction already begun?
Construction has begun on the data center here on the Washington and Lee campus. We had a groundbreaking ceremony, I guess a week ago, and now they're hard at work clearing the property and getting ready to pour the foundation.
And I know that construction in the county requires land easements to be signed, and that we've talked before, there are a number of land easements still to go. What is that project?
Yes, we thought originally when we submitted the proposal that we would be able to use the rights-of-way of the Virginia Department of Transportation for all of the routes that we wanted to cover in the county. After we received the grant, we discovered that in fact the Virginia Department of Transportation doesn't have a right-of-way on all of the roads they maintain. And we've had to identify those sections where they don't have a right-of-way, where they have what is called a prescriptive easement, which allows them to work on the roads only, but not to permit others to put in communications, cabling, or utilities. So we've had to identify those parcels, and then now we're going door to door and asking the landowners if they would donate an easement so that we can put this fiber optic cable on their property, but just 2 feet off the edge of the road.
How many people exactly do you need to sign the easements? Well,
we thought we needed 365 when we started, but then with further research we found that some of them were on rights of way that VDOT had not recorded, and some were on BARC telephone poles or BARC electric poles, where BARC, one of the electric utilities in the area, has a right of way and can permit us to use their poles. So we eliminated those, and we've received 66 signed ones, so we're down to about 240 that we need now.
And what has the general response been as you've gone door to door?
The response has been most people want more information, and specifically how this will affect their property. They want to know whether their mailbox will be damaged and who will pay for the repairs for that. They want to know if it'll damage their trees if they're a certain distance away. But by and large, most people are saying, we think it's a good project. We want to think a little bit more about whether we can give you an easement or not, but it's certainly a worthy project. We have had several that have said, no, I'd prefer it not be on my property.
Do you know what their reasoning was?
I think every one of them has a different reason. One I heard about, or one I talked to a gentleman about a couple of weeks ago, was that he still harbored ill will toward the county because the county closed one of the high schools 20 years ago. And that was his high school, and he didn't like it.
Okay. So what happens if he's refusing to sign? What does that mean?
Well, our next step is to now go to the other side of the road to see if the people that own that property will allow us to pass through it. in which case we'll have the added expense of boring under the road twice to come back, but at least we will have bypassed that stop and keep it moving on.
Will that fit into the budget to have that extra expense?
Well, we'll have to make it fit into the budget. If we have to have that extra expense, we'll certainly be looking for what could be cut. In fact, before we identify the final contractor for the fiber construction, which should happen in a couple of weeks, all of the bids came in over our projection. And so we know that we're looking seriously now at having to trim some of the routes back. Exactly which ones, we're not quite sure. We're working on that as hard and diligently as we can.
And did you say you have decided, or you're still deciding which contractor you'll go with for the cabinets?
The cabinet contractor, let's see, that was signed, authorization was signed last week, and that contractor will be notified this week and hopefully get working fairly quickly.
Okay, and so to accommodate the extra expenses, you're just going to cut back on the route
Probably.
a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably. There are a couple of routes that are particularly expensive because we've encountered a lot of rock on them. And we're also going back to look at the comprehensive plan for the county to make sure that we're targeting, if we have to target less than all of our routes, we need to make sure we're targeting at least the high valence ones with respect to the comprehensive plan in terms of where we're trying to encourage industry and businesses to locate.
And so what areas exactly is this going to affect?
Which?
When you,
The
like
cutting back or the building?
Yeah, the cutting back. Which part will that affect?
We're not sure yet. We've got several committees that are looking at it and trying to come up with the least harm to the integrity of the entire project, while at the same time having to defer. And in fact, we're not actually going to be stopping building that part of the route. We're going to have to defer it to another source of income. We probably would not be able to do it under the current budget, but we'd be seeking additional funding to do that.
And what benefits will this project bring to the county?
Oh, I think it's a huge opportunity for the county in a number of ways. We have a very large retirement community here that is increasingly drawing on medical services and increasingly wanting to keep in touch with their various families wherever they may be. And I think that good broadband service will allow some of the new telemedicine uses that are coming into practice to be used here. A number of people, for example, could save a trip to Waynesboro or Charlottesville once all the pieces are in place, so that consultations could happen over broadband. We expect the schools to benefit tremendously because they will see a significant increase in the capacity of their technology and access to streaming videos and to real-time telecommunications across the world. We think they'll also realize a bit of a savings if they can use our fiber network instead of the T1s that they're using now.
And I know we've talked about Mrs. Horn. What's happening with her pine trees? Are you working around her?
Once we have identified a contractor, we're going to go back to her, because she told me the day before you talked to her that she would not make a decision now, but wanted to talk to a contractor and get verification that the trees would not be harmed. Apparently then she went on camera and said that she didn't want it to happen. But I've told her that I would bring a contractor because she asked for it, and so we're still going to do that. And hopefully they'll change their minds. Otherwise, we'll look across the street there too.
So you're working with all of the landowners to get their easement signed.
Right.
Excuse me. And so what is the next step in the process now? What are you looking ahead towards?
Well, the next step is to identify the contractor for the fiber construction, for the actual fiber network, and to continue to gather easements. We're going to try to focus on one route at a time once we determine the final routes, and get the contractors working on those while we continue to seek easements on the other routes. We will be working very hard with the Business and Finance Subcommittee of RANA to set a fee structure for service providers and to determine how much it would cost for a drop for a residence or a business, so that we can tell people as the contractor is passing your house, if you want to tie in, we might be able to do that much less expensively at that time if you're willing to contribute X number of dollars to it. And we don't know what that number is yet. They're working on trying to figure out a good, reasonable rate for that.
Mm-hmm. And are we still looking at 2013 as our deadline?
Yes, June 30th, 2013 is the date by which the project should be completed.
Are we on track with that deadline?
We're a little behind right now. We had a couple of unanticipated problems arise early. One of which was a 9-month-long environmental assessment process. That took much longer than we had anticipated it would take. So that delayed us. You see, that had to be in place with authorization to proceed before we could take any of the next steps in the project, like getting easements or breaking ground or any of that.
Well, thank you again for joining us, and join us again next time for the Rockbridge Report.